There's a force moving silently through your life, shaping the edges of what you call real. Not a superstition, not a metaphor, but a living current. And you've been using it every day without even noticing. It's in every feeling that lingers, every vision you return to when you're alone, every quiet belief you carry in the backdrop of your mind. This force is thought, not the mechanical chatter in your head, not the voice that replays conversations or worries about bills. The kind of thought we're speaking of exists deeper, beneath language, beneath reason. It's a vibration that hums out of your being and sends signals to the universe like a tuning fork in a vast hall. You weren't designed just to react, just to follow instinct or cold analysis. You're not an equation solving itself through life. You are awareness in motion, a transmitter of unseen waves that call out and bring back echoes shaped like your inner world. What if your thoughts didn't just stay trapped inside your skull? What if they floated outward, wrapping themselves around your life, adjusting its temperature, rewriting the next chapter before you even stepped into it? That shift begins in silence, not thunder, no grand epiphany or glowing light. Just a flicker, barely a whisper, that maybe, just maybe, your inner world is more than a private theater. Maybe it's a generator, a sculptor, a code that interfaces with the field around you and tells it what to become. You've already brushed against this truth. The days when you woke up heavy, weighed down by some vague dread, and the hours that followed seemed to echo that heaviness, playing it back in everything from traffic to conversations to timing that just wouldn't cooperate. Or those other mornings, light, almost charged, when things fell into place, smiles came easier, solutions appeared out of nowhere. Coincidence? Or was the world simply following your script? What you think carries tone, rhythm, texture. Emotions lace those thoughts with voltage. Beliefs give them shape, and once they're formed, they don't just fade, they ripple outward. Not in some abstract way, but like radio waves searching for stations that match their frequency. Your dominant thought patterns act like beacons, and the people, events, and circumstances you meet, they don't appear at random. They're echoes of what your energy was broadcasting. To see this, to truly see it, is to wake up from a long sleep. A sleep where you believed that life just happened to you, where luck was something outside your control, and where thoughts were just thoughts, harmless, aimless, weightless. But the moment you recognize their density, the moment you understand that thought is formative, not passive, something changes. You begin to think on purpose, not out of fear, not out of obsession, but with precision, with design. Most people drift. Their minds are shaped by whatever noise is loudest: news, gossip, fear, memory, habit. They don't think so much as they are thought by the environment they live in. But you're not most people. You're here because something in you is done being dragged along by chance. You're ready to remember the truth that ancient mystics whispered, that sages protected behind metaphors and ritual, that you can mold the unseen, that the kingdom of heaven isn't in the clouds, it begins with mind. Take a breath and imagine your inner landscape, not the clutter of random worries, but a sacred space, a hall of mirrors that reflect your essence. There at the center is something watching, silent, unmoved. This is not your ego, not the personality you present to the world. This is the still presence behind the eyes, the witness, the command center. When you speak from this place, not with your mouth, but with intention, you do more than hope. You initiate, you broadcast. The first stage is always reclaiming that center. For too long, that throne has sat vacant, and in its place, untrained voices, worry, insecurity, borrowed ideas, have pretended to lead. But when you step back into that space of clarity, everything shifts. You stop serving fear. You stop obeying desire. Instead, you begin to wield them. You use your attention as a sword, slicing through distraction. You raise your will like a torch, illuminating the path you've chosen, not the one handed to you by others. And don't confuse this for force or suppression. You're not trying to silence your humanity. You're not waging war against emotion. You're taking the seat at the head of the table and choosing which voices get to speak. Every single thought you let linger, every image you replay, every emotional tone you allow to repeat, these are builders. Brick by brick, they are creating the architecture of your life. If you leave that process on autopilot, the structure will reflect other people's blueprints, society's programming, or your past fears. But the moment you bring deliberate awareness to what you're thinking, you begin to sketch your own design. Now feel this. Thought doesn't just move through your brain. It pulses through your entire nervous system. It resonates out of you, subtle but real, like scent from a flower. And as that vibration leaves you, it finds its match in the invisible world around you. That's not poetic language. That's energetic law. Frequency responds to frequency. So when you become aware of this dynamic, your work becomes sacred. Every mental image you entertain is a seed. Every emotionally charged thought is a command. That quiet, "What if everything works out?" carries more weight than an hour of complaints. That soft picture of joy repeated over days begins to magnetize reality toward it, assembling the elements needed to bring it into form. But it begins with mastery. Not over the outer world, that comes later. First, you master the storm within. That means discipline. Not the kind that chokes or tightens, the kind that refines. You begin to watch the waves of thought without being carried by them. When anxiety knocks, you open the door but don't invite it in. When doubt tries to whisper, you listen, then respond, not react. And the more often you do this, the stronger your center becomes. It's like retraining a wild horse, not by violence, but with presence. You bring your mind back, over and over, to where you want it to be. And at first, it resists. It will try to run. But eventually, it returns more willingly, until finally it rests where you ask it to. That's when true creation begins. This journey is not about forcing positivity or pretending that pain doesn't exist. It's about understanding the raw material of experience and choosing how to shape it. Pain, when brought into awareness, becomes wisdom. Fear, when transmuted, becomes clarity. Anger, when acknowledged but not obeyed, becomes focus. All of these emotions are energy, and energy, when refined, becomes power. You don't deny what rises up, you alchemize it. That is your role now, not to avoid the storm, but to stand within it and change its nature. You're becoming something ancient and future-bound at the same time. A conscious generator, a living sculptor of possibility, a being who no longer waits for the world to change before feeling peace, but feels peace and watches the world shift in response. This is the current you've always carried, the spark beneath your thoughts, the hum you feel when you're quiet enough to notice. It's not from outside. It's not a gift from a teacher or a book. It's you, and it's always been waiting for one thing, your recognition. So you begin, not by shouting affirmations, but by quiet conviction, not by seeking power, but by understanding you've never been without it. And the more you return to this truth, the more the world will start to bend, not in dramatic, cinematic ways, but in subtle movements, like the way the wind begins to shift before a storm arrives. You will start to notice patterns, certain people falling away, new ones arriving, ideas landing with perfect timing, and none of it will feel random, because it isn't. It's the echo of your vibration, finally being heard. You are not at the mercy of the world. You are the rhythm it responds to. Somewhere deep within you, past the tangled forest of distractions and memories, there's a flame that has never gone out. You felt it during moments when everything paused, when time slowed just enough for you to realize you were more than your name, more than your history, more than your reactions. That flame is the sovereign part of you, untouched by noise, waiting in stillness, not silent because it's asleep, but quiet because it watches, it listens. It waits for you to remember that you are not here to follow patterns. You are here to write them. And to write them, you must first understand the ink. The ink is energy, emotion, thought. The unseen tides that move before anything physical happens. What most people call reality is just the echo, the visible aftershock of something that started long before it took form. By the time you experience an event, the cause has already passed through you in the form of sustained thinking, repeated imagining, and emotional reinforcement. But you're not here to live in delay. You're here to meet life at the seed level, to operate not from reaction, but from command. Command doesn't mean shouting or demanding. It means clarity. It means presence. It means knowing what you're sending out, not by accident, but with intention. And at the core of that command lies something few people truly understand: desire. Not the kind sold in commercials or whispered by cravings. True desire. The quiet certainty that arises when your inner being recognizes something it's meant to experience. This isn't fantasy. It isn't grasping. It's resonance. When a desire is real, it doesn't scream. It hums. It aligns. It gathers strength without force. Most confuse desire with lack. They beg the world to give them what they think is missing. But real desire isn't a cry from emptiness. It's a signal from fullness, the part of you that already knows what's possible, calling it into form. When that signal is clear, when it's backed by focus and steadiness, life doesn't resist, it organizes, and that's where many falter. They send out mixed messages. They want one thing, but their dominant thoughts revolve around fear. They visualize success, but speak constantly of doubt. The universe doesn't respond to wishful thinking. It responds to consistency, to tone, to sustained frequency. So your task becomes one of alignment, not just to dream, but to live in the atmosphere of that dream. To speak as if it's already yours, to act in ways that reflect its presence, to become the embodiment of what you say you desire. When thought, feeling, speech, and action all move in the same direction, resistance fades. The world no longer has to guess what you mean. It listens, and it delivers. This is not theory, this is a law, not one written in books or courtrooms, but one etched into the very wiring of reality. It does not play favorites. It doesn't judge who deserves what. It mirrors, always. And the moment you hold an image with emotional intensity and consistency, you activate it. It might not arrive tomorrow. It might not arrive the way you expected, but it begins to unfold, often in ways so seamless you might miss the connection unless you're watching closely. And you are watching now, not passively, but as a participant. You are no longer the audience in your own story. You're holding the pen, and with that power comes responsibility. What will you choose to focus on? What thoughts will you give sanctuary to? What feelings will you feed? These aren't small questions, they are the blueprint. You see, the conscious mind is not the whole mind. It's just the surface, the interpreter. But underneath it lies the subconscious, a field of fertile soil. Whatever is planted there, especially through repetition and emotion, begins to grow. The subconscious doesn't argue. It doesn't edit. It accepts. If you feed it fear, it grows more reasons to fear. If you feed it strength, it begins to mold your reality to match. And how do you plant in this deeper layer? Through habit, through rhythm, through feeling-laced thought. Not once, not twice, but as a way of being. This is where most give up. They want results from a few minutes of effort while still living the rest of the day in contradiction. But the subconscious watches all of it. Every reaction, every internal dialogue, every assumption you quietly carry. These become your reality, not because you declared them out loud, but because you repeated them silently until they were believed. So you begin to sculpt your patterns, gently but persistently, not by eliminating every negative thought. That's impossible, but by choosing where to return. When your mind wanders to doubt, you notice and then redirect. When fear arises, you feel it and choose not to follow it. Each act of redirection is a vote for your new self. Each moment you choose alignment over habit, you lay another stone on the path. Over time, the path becomes easier to walk. You're no longer building it with sheer force. You're flowing with the current you created. That's the magic of habit. What was once difficult becomes default. What was once discipline becomes desire. You don't have to push yourself to think in empowering ways. You've wired yourself to do it naturally. This is how psychic power awakens, not with explosions of insight, but with steady refinement. The more aligned your thoughts and feelings are, the more sensitive you become. You begin to perceive patterns others miss. You hear the quiet voice of intuition more clearly, not because it just started speaking, but because you finally got quiet enough to listen. That silence is powerful. In a noisy world, it becomes your edge. Most are flooded by input, overwhelmed by opinions, screens, narratives. But you begin to cultivate space. You sit with stillness, you hold attention. And in that calm, the deeper layers open. You notice things, a shift in someone's tone, a strange coincidence, a dream that lingers with meaning. These aren't random, they're signals, and you're becoming the kind of person who can receive them because your internal field is no longer chaotic. It's tuned, it's prepared. Clairvoyance, intuition, energy sensing. These are not gifts reserved for the few. They are capacities lying dormant in most, blocked not by ignorance but by interference. When you clear the noise, when you train focus, regulate emotion, and direct thought, those capacities wake up. And once awake, they don't just give insight, they guide you. They lead you to the right people, the right places, the right timing. But it all begins with attention, the ability to stay with one thought, one vision, one feeling, without drifting. This is concentration, and it's not a dull exercise, it's a sharpening of power. When you can place your awareness where you choose and hold it, you become magnetic. Your thoughts gain structure, your words carry energy. Your very presence shifts rooms. Others may not understand what changed. They'll just feel it. They'll sense the clarity in your gaze, the calm in your movements, the certainty in your voice. That's not ego, that's alignment, and it doesn't need to be explained. It radiates. But here's the truth. This power is not for display. It's not to impress or dominate. It's to create, to heal, to connect. The more refined your inner world, the more capable you become of contributing to the outer one. You start to bring peace into chaos, solutions into confusion, light into shadow, and you don't need a stage for that. Every interaction becomes an opportunity. Every moment a brushstroke in the masterpiece you're painting. So you keep going, not because it's easy, but because it's right. You remember, again and again, that every thought is an act of creation. Every choice of focus is a spell you cast. Every feeling you embody is a vibration sent forward into time, calling your future toward you. And if the path feels long, know this: it's not linear, it's exponential. What begins slowly gains momentum. What feels subtle becomes undeniable. You are retraining lifetimes of habit. That takes time, but it also awakens something ancient, a memory, a knowing that you have done this before, that you're not learning so much as remembering. And what you're remembering is not mystical, it is essential. You are not a victim of chance, you are a designer of form. And every day, with every breath, you are sculpting the world around you. Not with your hands, but with your being. From the moment you start holding your focus with steadiness, like a flame protected from the wind, something ancient stirs inside. This isn't something new you're learning, it's something timeless you're restoring. The deeper you sit with intention, the more the currents of your life begin to answer, not loudly, not theatrically, but with an intelligence that unfolds behind the scenes, one coincidence at a time. You see, life doesn't leap at noise, it dances to rhythm. And the rhythm of a concentrated mind is a song the universe cannot ignore. You begin to notice subtle shifts. People who used to distract you drift quietly away. Moments of synchronicity show up more frequently, almost like confirmations. The space around you takes on a different quality, like it's listening, and that's because it is. What surrounds you is not inert. It's not an empty stage waiting for you to perform. It's responsive. It breathes with you. It echoes your tone. And as your tone sharpens, becomes more deliberate, more refined, the responses grow clearer, faster, more precise. The ability to hold focus is not just for visualization or goal setting. It's the doorway to all higher mental faculties. Without concentration, your energy spills. It diffuses into 1,000 directions, and no one signal gets through. But when you channel it, when you bring your awareness to a single aim and keep it there without letting it leak into fear or doubt, something powerful ignites. This is when your thought ceases to be suggestion and becomes command, not a command of arrogance, but of certainty, a frequency that resonates with laws far older than language. At this point, your vision stops being a wish and becomes a blueprint, and your energy is the architect. You don't need to force outcomes. You only need to remain consistent. The clearer and more charged your inner image becomes, the more reality arranges itself to accommodate it. This is not because life suddenly favors you. It's because you've stopped contradicting yourself. The inner signal becomes so coherent that life simply mirrors back its clarity. But clarity needs fuel, and that fuel is desire. Most misunderstand desire. They've been taught it's something to be ashamed of, or that wanting invites suffering. But desire in its true form is not hunger. It's recognition. It's the inner self nodding toward a potential it knows exists. And when that desire becomes charged with belief and steady focus, it transforms. It becomes an organizing principle. The whole of your internal world starts revolving around it, not with obsession, but with alignment. You feel the difference in your body. Your breathing changes. Your decisions become easier. Distractions lose their grip. You are no longer pulled in a dozen directions. You become a magnet, not for random things, but for everything that matches the tone of your clearest inner signal. This is why desire without focus is scattered energy. It generates sparks, but no fire. And why thought without feeling is just vapor. It carries no voltage. But when the current of thought is joined by the pulse of real desire and held with unwavering attention, the process begins. You don't always see the results immediately. That's part of the law. Manifestation is rhythmic, not instant, but the results, once they start, follow a kind of internal logic. You'll feel their momentum before you witness them, like the way your lungs tighten just before a storm breaks. The atmosphere shifts first. And all of this, every insight, every transformation, begins not in mysticism, but in repetition. The simplest habits, done with awareness, become spells. Think of how many times your old self rehearsed fear, how many days it played back memories laced with helplessness. That wasn't just memory, it was ritual, it was programming, and it shaped your world in turn. So now you change the ritual. You don't beg reality to shift, you train it by shifting yourself. You choose what thoughts you rehearse. You notice the feeling tone behind your words. You speak not from your wounds, but from your will. Not because you're pretending the pain isn't real, but because you finally understand pain isn't the truth. It's the echo. The real you stands behind it, whole, untouchable, waiting for you to see with new eyes. In this place, will becomes your compass. You're no longer guided by what's easy or familiar. You move toward what resonates with the version of you that's already whole. And every act of self-direction builds momentum. Every choice to return to your center, no matter how small, strengthens the field you're building. This is the architecture of inner sovereignty. It's not a crown you wear, it's a rhythm you live. That rhythm begins to shape your nervous system. Your thoughts travel along familiar pathways, but those pathways can be changed. Every time you redirect from doubt to clarity, from hesitation to action, you carve a new channel, and when repeated, those channels deepen. They become reflex. What was once discipline becomes ease. What was once effort becomes nature. This is the science behind the so-called miraculous. There are no miracles in the traditional sense. There are only laws operating at levels most ignore. When you live in alignment with those laws, outcomes that seem magical to others become predictable to you. The unseen supports the seen. The inner world precedes the outer. Always. And the final piece, the one most overlooked, is belief. Belief is not just a thought you repeat. It's the lens through which you interpret everything. It decides whether you view a delay as a sign to give up or a cue to hold steady. It filters what you notice, what you accept, what you reject. Belief is the silent judge behind your desires. If you desire but do not believe, you cancel the signal. But if you believe without question, your desire is already halfway into form. And belief is not something you wait for. It's something you build. You build it through experience, through evidence, through reflection. Each time you hold a thought and see reality bend ever so slightly in response, you gain more trust in the process, and that trust becomes belief, not as dogma, but as knowing. So the path is not one of conquest, but of refinement. You are not chasing power. You are clearing away what blocked it. You are not reaching for something outside yourself. You are uncovering what was always within. And when that uncovering is complete, or rather, when it becomes your way of living, something happens that words struggle to capture. You no longer feel like a person trying to navigate a chaotic world. You feel like the center of a field, a still point from which waves emanate, shaping, attracting, clarifying. You understand that your mind is not your enemy. Your emotions are not mistakes. They are tools, and you have learned to use them. You become less reactive and more intentional. You stop asking for signs and begin creating them. You no longer look to others for permission to believe in yourself. You carry that permission in your breath, your stance, your presence. People sense it. They may not understand it, but they feel the steadiness and they respond. Your relationships change, your choices shift, and eventually your world reshapes, not by accident, not through sheer willpower, but because you finally aligned every layer of yourself to a single direction. This is the true secret that the mystics hinted at, that the ancient teachers encoded in symbols and stories. Thought is not thought. It is energy. Energy that creates, energy that obeys your clearest inner directive, energy that listens and acts. So now the question isn't whether the power exists. It does. The only question left is, what will you do with it? Will you use your mind as a weapon against yourself, recycling old stories and fears? Or will you use it as a tool of liberation, shaping reality with clarity and care? Will you speak words that reflect your past? Or speak as though the future is already written in your favor? Will you wander through each day reacting to noise? Or will you walk as the eye in the storm, unmoved, focused, deliberate? There is no right moment to begin. There is only the moment you decide. The shift happens not with fireworks, but with a choice to reclaim the power you once forgot you had, a choice to think with intent, to feel with awareness, to create with love, and to live not as a victim of chance, but as a deliberate architect of experience. That choice is yours, and once made, there is no turning back. The world within has remembered its role. The world outside is already responding. You are the fire. You are the signal. You are the cause. Now rise.